Welcome to Jesse and Carson YouTube. Yeah! Today I'm bringing to you my November wrap-up and December TBR. The first book I read in November was Divergent, and I absolutely loved it. I put a review on my channel, and the link will be down below in my pants. And I gave it a 5 out of 5. It was action-packed. I loved the leading man in the story, even though it was a subtle romance. It wasn't like totally in your face. And it was just a really good book. The next book I read was because the movie was coming out for it, and I wanted to read the book before I saw the movie, and I had it on my TBR pile for a long time and finally just read it, and that was Catching Fire. And that's the first book was The Hunger Games, in case you don't know, and Catching Fire was the sequel. The love triangle was still present in the book, and things happen, and they end up back in the games, and that's basically what Catching Fire is about. The next book I read was Anna and the French Kiss, and I loved this book, and it was about a girl whose parents sent her to boarding school for her senior year of high school in France. And she doesn't know the city or anything like that, and she's basically alone. And then this group of friends bring her into their clique, and she ends up falling for one of the guys in the clique, but he has a girlfriend. And one of the girls in the clique, who becomes her friend, also has a crush on him. So that dynamic happens, and the story unfolds from there. The next book I read was The Edge of Never, and oh my god, it was so good. It was a new adult book, and I'm starting to really like the new adult books. This basically has everything that I like in a book in it. Romance and all that kind of stuff. And, well, this book is about a girl who has a pivotal moment where she can't stand everything that's happening, and she decides to just leave town and go on a bus trip. And she picks a random place, and she just goes. And she ends up meeting this guy, and they end up becoming friends and getting close. A romantic thing happens from there, and then at the end of near the end of the book, there's a cliffhanger, and I was not expecting it. You probably won't expect it either, because I'm usually good at picking up these things. And it was just like, it was just so good, and I really want to read the sequel. The next book I read was Poison Princess, and this was a book about a girl who you find out was in a mental type place, a mental ward type place, and because she sees visions, and she doesn't think they're real, and she's on medication to try to stop them, but she has them anyway. And it's about like the world ending and stuff like that, and I don't want to give away spoilers, but things happen, and things just happen. And it has a lot to do with the tarot cards as well, so if you know tarot cards, it has something to do with that as well. So I can't really say much or I'll give away the book, but it was an enjoyable read. I think I'd give it about a 4 out of 5. This book I read was Born at Midnight. I didn't really like this book. The lead character was really immature. The book says that there's supposed to be all this supernatural stuff in it, and yeah, there is a touch of supernatural, but you don't get to see it. Like, the side characters, their stories were more interesting than the main characters. She was just really immature. She wouldn't believe anything, even though she saw it with her own eyes, and she'd rather believe she had a brain tumor than believe what she was. I just didn't like it. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I was expecting more from a supernatural book. The next book I read was the book of Blood and Shadow, and I got to page 200 and quit because it was terrible. The descriptions that the author chose to use didn't make sense. I've never heard them before. She used big words that make no sense. Like, I wish I could give you a description, but the main character was just not believable. She wasn't relatable. Um, the things that they were doing in the book, trying to discover and stuff like that, just wasn't believable either. Like, these teenagers are figuring out this puzzle that historians and people who couldn't figure it out, but supposedly these kids figure out these things. And a high schooler being able to work with old ancient tomes and deciphering Latin, just, it didn't make sense. I just couldn't finish the book. That's a first for me. Usually I can go through a whole book, but I just couldn't with this one. So now for my TBR. The Vampire Shrink by Linda Hilburn. I actually ended up already reading this one. Oops. I just finished it today, actually. And this is about a shrink a psychologist, who has this patient who's a girl who's dressed up in like goth clothing and makeup and vampire fangs in her mouth. And she really wants to become a vampire, and she thinks that these people that she's hanging out with, her new friends, she thinks that they actually are vampires. And so the world uncovers, and the psychologist ends up getting deeper and deeper entangled into this web, and truths and things come out, and the story has a love triangle. And if you're a fan of vampire books, because I'm a huge fan of vampire books, my first book I ever read was Dracula. So Twilight is my favorite series of all time. I read Cirque du Freak. I read the R.L. Stine vampire books. I read Christopher Pike's vampire books. I read Vampire Academy, which is also one of my favorite series, not as much as Twilight, but still. So if you like vampire books, I suggest you get this one, because it is good. And I read in the back that there's a sequel, so I'm like dying to get it. I have to have it now, but I guess I'll have to wait. The next book, I already started some of this. I got to page 123. So this is The Eye of Mines by James Dashner. Oh, there you go. I saw this on Deb's Book Cafe. She is my favorite YouTuber right now. I'm dying waiting until her next videos come out. I just love watching her. She just seems so sweet, and she's nice, and she just has good pickup. She knows how to pick a book. So I'm a huge gamer, and this book is like kind of matrixy, but having gamer stuff like mixed into it. And it's about people that go into this machine and hook themselves up and go into this virtual gaming world. And since I'm a huge gamer, I just thought that this would be so amazing. So this is the next book I'm going to finish reading. And then my next one, I started this one too, but I only got to page 22. And this is Midnight in Austenland, because I read the first book, Austenland, and I loved it. So I wanted to read the second one, and so far it was pretty good. I was liking it, and can't wait to read that one as well. And then the last book is Something Strange and Deadly by Susan Dennard. All I know is this has romance in it. I don't really know much about it. I know that there's like necromancers and zombies, so with the romance, so I'm pretty into wanting to read that. And that's all I have planned. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave in the comments if you read any of these books. Follow me on Twitter, jesseand carson. Go check out my husband's gaming channel, Something Wicked Games, youtube.com/somethingwickedgames. I'm in some of those videos. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.